Hi, good evening and welcome to Larkspur City Council regular meeting of October 17th. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Harrell.
Here.
Councilmember Hilmer.
Here.
Vice Mayor Chu.
Here. Okay, please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, this is the time for part of the meeting where we have public comment. So if anybody has something they'd like to address the council on that is not on the agenda tonight. And we have Cindy Winters.
Thank
I already
you.
stated your name.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
10 days ago, the IJ published my Marin Voice piece about electric bicycles. In case you didn't see it, I'll give our city clerk a copy. It discusses the coming new era of e-bikes and their effect on our multi-use paths. Last year, e-bike sales soared 73%. Sales of regular bikes fell 8%. The forecast is for continued rapid e-bike growth. The other day I visited New Wheels and the store was hopping busy. Specialized and Trek both have extensive selections of e-bikes for sale. It looks like we are expecting an e-bike tsunami, which is all to the good as it will reduce auto traffic and cut greenhouse gases. However, for decades, multi-use paths have served cyclists and pedestrians through provision of sufficient space that all users were able to dodge one another in a kind of dance that I call the multi-use muddle. With swarms of e-bikes, that extra welcome space will vanish. The average e-bike weighs 50 pounds. By comparisons, road bikes and mountain bikes weigh about 17 and 25 pounds respectively. 50 pounds of metal ridden by a 150-pound person traveling at 20 miles an hour should not be on the same crowded path as small children on learner bikes or seniors walking as best they can despite failing health. I believe some solutions can be designed, though they will probably have to be site-specific, which will be more difficult than simply laying down a flat strip of asphalt. Everything is changing. More floods, more fires, new kinds of housing, new kinds of transportation. But I do sense now that compared to even a short time ago, many people in Marin see the need to work together on these problems. I find that quite gratifying. And I do have some extra copies of these articles. I'm not trying to tout my own authorship. I'm just trying to educate people.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I just looked at my agenda and saw that I had the wrong date. Today's October 16th, not 17th. Hi. Good evening.
Hello. I've been here in front of you a couple of times.
Yeah, can you still state your name?
My name is
please?
Conrad Williams. I live in Marin Mobile Home Park. We are a community of about 80 homes. We own our homes and rent the ground. My address is 2130 Redwood Highway, D14, Green Beret, California, 94904. Have you wondered where the firemen, police, teachers, and city workers find places to live in Larkspur? We have been a realistically priced area up to the present, but the rents are rising rapidly, and folks on fixed incomes are being priced out of the city. But what about the folks we need when the lights go out, and the water rises, and the flames sweep down from the mountain? Do they live here, or are they stuck miles and miles away in places too distant to come to our aid when we need them? You can do something about the prices of our utilities, at least for those of us who get care rates for our gas and electricity, our phones and internet. The state has mandated that, but garbage, trash, and sewer rates are set locally. These count too. We need you to keep our homes affordable. And where can the emergency people live? It's important for you to do something. I don't know what you can do, but we need those people. What is there? Three policemen living out of the 70 that work in Central Marin that live here? You know, where are they going to be when we need them? I've lived in Marin since 1954 and in Larkspur for 27 years. Soon I'll be gone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just my height. My name is Joan Dubkowski. I also live at Marin Park in a mobile home. And I just wanted to bring your attention to the fact that legislation was just passed at the state level for rent stabilization, some really interesting things, signed by the governor. What's really important is to look at it as a matter of scale, I think. So mobile homes were excluded from that legislation. And rent increases are capped at 5% plus cost of living, or 10%, whichever is less. So when you look at that as a matter of scale, I think it's important to recognize that we who live in mobile homes are not getting a place to live when we pay rent. We're getting a parking space. So I don't think our rent should be even capped near that 5 to 10%, because we're not getting a place to live for those increases. And when you look at it as a matter of scale, whether you get a home or an apartment or a condo or something like that, or a parking place, I think all of a sudden we go, oh yeah, if you want to deal with mobile home living, which is, as we've been saying, the naturally occurring affordable housing that is not subsidized by the government, I think it's important to just think in terms of scale. If it's maxed out at 7 to 10% for a place to live, then I think that rent increases should be way below that for parking spaces. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, does anyone else have any matter they'd like to address the council on?
Hi, Laura Lovett, Larkspur Plaza Drive. I actually have a couple of favors to ask you. For the last couple of years, I planted and have been maintaining the beds by the Lark Theater. And we went through some dips this summer because we had a couple of crises, one of which was an invasion of moles, and the other was the water got shut off and nobody noticed it for weeks. So I've been out there a lot in the dark, and I think we have things under control, and the water's back on, and the plants are coming back, and I did a lot of replanting. But on the south end of the bed, we have about 4 feet that are bare, and I actually brought pictures for you.
You can give them to Allison. All right.
The reason I've left it bare right now is because the bed is level with the sidewalk and everybody shortcuts across there, not to mention walking their dogs there. Now, it should be obvious it's a garden, not a dog poop bed, but somehow that never gets across. And I don't want to plant anything there without some low fencing. So the second page of that is some ideas for low fencing that would be metal, about 12 to 18 inches high, you know, sufficient for people to see it, not trip over it. But where I drew that yellow line, I'd like to put a strip of fencing so that I'll surrender 2 feet. I mean, people can walk their dogs and walk on that end, but I don't really want to surrender 4 feet of the bed. I would like to plant inside of the fence and have it be protected a little bit. It's been quite a bit of work to maintain the bed. It's something I do for the city of Larkspur to make us look nice. I've had lots and lots of people from the theater come over and say, thank you very much. So I would like to extend the planting down to that end of the bed, but there's no point in doing it without some kind of a barrier because dogs and people are just gonna walk across the plants. So I would like to put a little fence there. We have the money for it. My second request, the most common thing I get asked when I'm out there gardening is, are you getting paid to do this? And of course the answer is no. So then I tell them that it's a gift to the city from the California Native Plant Society Marin chapter. So I wondered if it would also be possible to put up one of our little signs which says the native plants live here. It's a nice enamel sign on a wooden stake that would be down in the flowers, just so that people would know, how these plants came to be here and why it looks different than all the other plantings around the city.
All right, can you give that to Ellison? And, yeah, you can give it to Dan, and he can give it all to Julian. All right. Thank you for all your work, Laura. We'll have Dan pass that on to Public Works Director Julian Skinner.
Okay, I've sort of asked a couple of different people, and I asked the Heritage Committee, who was the original one that I went to with the plan, and everybody keeps sending me to somebody different. That's why I'm here at City Council to say, please, could I do these two things? Because I can't really quite figure out who I get permission from for these things.
You came to the right place.
Okay,
Did you want to
Go to
comment
the top.
on that? Okay.
okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your work, Laura.
Hi, yeah.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me back there? All right. My name is Mitch Powers. I have spoken here before. I'm also from the Marin Park mobile home community, and I've been living there since 2005. I want to talk about rent stabilization with the goal of eventual purchase of the park. I am requesting, if not already, that the council authorize the city manager to begin the research regarding rent stabilization. This is pretty critical. Some of us are just on a one-year lease because we're hoping that the city will get behind us and a year will go by quickly and our rents are going to continue to be jacked up. As some council members know, various agencies in the county of Marin are ready to assist. They have said they want to help. So the city manager could seek out help, and we can help provide those agencies. Supervisors are willing to help with the whole process of understanding rent stabilization on all the ramifications. So the template is already written. After all, 80% of mobile homes in Marin have rent control or stabilization. In doing so, you will also support, as I said in my last talk here, the Larkspur General Plan. I do quote the Larkspur General Plan. It says, provide the city's fair share of very low, and moderate income housing, and to assure affordable housing remains affordable over a long term. Elsewhere it says, maintain the present mix of uses in the area east of Highway 101, especially the mobile homes affordable to seniors and young families. So with rent stabilization for Marin Park, as the general plan indicates, you'll protect affordable housing. And please don't forget, there is the potential to add new units there, which is really valuable. Because if the park would be purchased, half of it are trailers, half are mobile homes. Those trailer spaces could be converted to new affordable units. Who objects to all this? It doesn't affect single home resident owners here in Larkspur or apartment owners. Marin Park is a unique situation. We own our mobile homes and we rent our parking spaces. Very different. Obviously, the Marin Park owners would probably object. We know their philosophy. I believe it is principally to maximize profits. We had a meeting with them and their lawyer, and we asked about these vast, large 10%, 15% rent increases, and they said it was simply a business decision. I don't fault them for that. It's a business decision. Maximizing profit is as American as apple pie. But I don't think it's right. And I think there's a need for more affordable housing and to protect existing affordable housing. This is where the government comes in, the city, the state, the federal government, to protect the little people. So I ask you, as we all are, to please move onto the agenda and to authorize the city manager to start work on rent stabilization on our behalf. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there anyone else tonight who would like to address the council on a matter that is not on our agenda tonight? Okay, seeing none, we'll now go to a presentation from Smoke-Free Marin. So,
I think Bob Curry's here. from
Okay.
Smoke-Free.
good evening, Mr. Curry.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me to come and give a presentation. I know the Smoke-Free Marin Coalition reached out to the mayor, and she graciously asked to have us placed on the agenda, and we thank you for that. We thought we were all making some great progress in our fight against big tobacco and its dangers, and we were. But unfortunately, smoking today is no longer just limited to just cigarettes. All secondhand smoke exposure is produced by cigarettes, e-cigarettes, vaping devices, cigarillos, hookah, and marijuana. They're all harmful to your health. And while most people in California and Marin County are very aware of the dangers from secondhand smoke from cigarettes, a lot of people are just not, they're really unsure about the other products. We definitely know with the cigarettes that there are 70 cancer-causing chemicals in secondhand smoke from cigarettes. And even a brief exposure to these toxic chemicals is dangerous. And secondhand smoke from cigarettes and other tobacco products that are burned, cigars or cigarillos or hookah, they're very harmful to be around. And the U.S. Surgeon General continues to warn the public that there is no safe level of exposure to secondhand smoke. And it's really, you know, when you think of people who are in our multi-unit housing, especially when we think about the children and the elderly and pregnant women and those who are chronically ill, many of those individuals are in their units 24/7. They're there most of the time. No escaping if they have neighbors who are not willing to not smoke and who are polluting the air that they are breathing. And now we have e-cigarettes, vaping devices that are actually not vapor but aerosol. And these are on the rise. As we know, and we've been looking in the news lately, and we've had an awareness that these are not they are very unhealthy. We know that there are, I think it was October 11th, I saw it was the last time I saw a report, the 1,300 people in the country are seriously ill from smoking these devices. 29 people have died in the last few months, and we don't know exactly what is causing the illness. But it certainly says to us that there are definitely dangers to these products. We don't know yet on all of the toxic chemicals that are being breathed in from people who are next to individuals who are smoking these devices. But we don't want to wait and find out down the road that these are as dangerous as those individuals who are smoking them and these particles are going into their lungs. We do know that some of the aerosol has definitely got chemicals in it, and that if you're around or exposed to people who are smoking or vaping constantly, you have those dangers that you have to be worried about. Last week I got a call from a woman whose neighbor in multi-unit housing here in Marin, and she was just beside herself because she has been watching the news and listening to the reports, realizing that people are getting sick and people are dying, and she's got a neighbor who is constantly vaping next door, and she said, I'm afraid I'm going to get very ill. And so she was, I tried to, explain to her that hopefully she's not as much danger as the individual who was actually doing the vaping. But we did reach out, and we asked the manager of the apartment if they could speak to the people who were smoking where they shouldn't be smoking or vaping, and they did speak to them, and luckily those people were willing to stop the vaping, and so that woman had great relief in her life. Marijuana. Marijuana now is legal in California. We certainly are not against, people's right to be able to have marijuana. There are many forms, though, that you can have the marijuana and you can enjoy the marijuana. We just don't, just like cigarettes, we are not against people wanting to smoke a cigarette. We are just concerned about those who are exposed to the secondhand smoke, because we have to look at their rights also to, just as people have a right to smoke marijuana, smoke regular cigarette, people have a right to breathe clean air. And that's what we are concerned about and the coalition is concerned about. And some people will say that, well, you're in your own little enclosed unit, and if you're doing that, it's not going into someone else's apartment or unit. But we do know from the experts, and the science says that these secondhand smoke and the aerosol is able to get through the ventilation systems, through cracks in the walls, floorboards, light fixtures, drains, windows, many ways that the secondhand product is getting into people's apartment. Here in Marin County, we have been working the last couple of years and been very successful in getting a number of our communities to look at their ordinances that were 75 or 80% protection for people. And they have San Rafael, Novato, and San Anselmo, which is part of the Central Marin Police Authority, have all changed their ordinances. They've adopted now 100% protection for all people who live in multi-unit housing, whether it be an apartment, a condo, or a townhouse. And so we know that here in Larkspur, many of your apartment owners have gone and went ahead and decided on their own to go with 100%. But I think in order to get 100% protection and allow everybody to have that healthy environment, the coalition is reaching out and asking everybody in Marin County, all the jurisdictions, to have 100% protection for their residents. We will, continue to do what we have been doing at the county, and that is that we are the ones who take the complaint when it comes in, and we are usually 95% of the time very successful in getting a settlement on that complaint when it comes in. We reach out to the owners and managers of apartment complexes, and they've been very cooperative, and we've been very successful in getting relief for the people who are calling us who are exposed to the secondhand smoke. We will continue to take those calls, whether it's with your current ordinance or if you adopt an ordinance very similar to San Anselmo. And we would also reach out and we would help the staff if they are putting together an ordinance very similar to San Anselmo. And that would be very easy, because since they have a great ordinance, it would just be a matter of taking what they have and adopting that. We've also reached out to Corte Madera, and we are going to also hopefully work with them. So if you have any questions, I do have the chair of our coalitions here this evening, and she is going to say a few words.
Okay.
Good evening, Council Member.
Hi, good evening.
I'm Pam Granger, and I was here back in 2010 and 2011 when we were talking about smoke-free multi-unit housing. At that time, I was working for the American Lung Association, and I've since retired from them. I said I would fight big tobacco for free, and here you go, still am. So back in 2011, the policy that the council passed was groundbreaking. The idea of if it wasn't so good to be exposed to secondhand smoke at work, it occurred to people it probably wasn't any better at home, where people live and spent more hours of their day, especially individuals that were children or, as Bob mentioned, seniors, which I'm beginning to think seniors should be a lot older than we used to think. So in the last 8 or 9 years, science has progressed so that there are hundreds of communities across the state of California who have passed smoke-free multi-unit housing policies, but they have upped those then. They raised the bar to 100%. And what we've heard from them is part of that was a case of social justice. They thought, why should anybody, if it was possible for one person who smokes because of the way the draw is, the draft, if there's a 65% of air exchange between units, then why should anybody be bothered in their potential health consequences because of one or two people that aren't smoking or that do smoke? So we would, as the coalition, and we've got all the usuals. We've got the Americans, heart, lung, and cancer. We've got the school people. We've got the seniors, the juniors. We're all in support of public health. It's really what it's about, is reducing the harmful effects of tobacco. And we're also still here. You'll see, if I was here, 10 years ago, the coalition is still here to support you with education. We can do another forum as a reminder for the businesses that are impacted and help get the word out. And of course, you've got the health department. So thank you so much for making time for us. We really appreciate having an opportunity to help you still improve public health here in Larkspur. Thank you.
Thank you. Any members of the City Council have questions or comments they'd like to direct towards or for smoke-free Marin? No?
No, just to thank them for their hard work and keep it up. Appreciate it.
Okay. Any members of the public like to ask any questions of the speakers? Okay. Seeing none, we're going to move on to our consent calendar items for tonight. Does any member of the council or member of the public like to pull one of the items for additional discussion or consideration? Okay. Seeing none, I'll take a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Got a motion?
I'll second it.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Okay, now's the time for our city manager's report.
One item for
Dan
you
Swartz.
this evening, Mr. Vice Mayor and council members. You've probably seen the paper, but I just wanted to make sure if you hadn't, and for the benefit of the members of the public who have not, when we brought the Marin Wildfire Prevention Authority to you, at that time we reported that the Board of Supervisors was contemplating placing a tax measure on the ballot, a property tax measure that would stay in place until rescinded by voters. Since that time, some of the entities that reviewed the JPA said they would join if a term was placed on the tax measure, and so we understand the county staff intends to recommend a term to the Board of Supervisors in November of 10 years, and then it would be up for renewal. And we understand that COST, who spoke to you and expressed their objections, now support the tax with the inclusion of, if it goes to fruition, that it has a 10-year renewal. So there's no need for the council to act. That change, should it occur, doesn't make what you voted for inconsistent, because you simply asked us to ask the board to put the measure on the ballot, and you asked to join the JPA. So those actions are still in place, but I want to make sure you were aware and that was on the record for Larkspur that we understand it. The measure that we saw in our packet will probably be a little different when it goes to Board of Supervisors.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
That's it. Okay. Any questions for Dan?
No, just to confirm, that doesn't affect the scheduling of when the measure would be put on the ballot. We're still planning to go ahead as planned.
The the Board of Supervisors still intends to act in November. As I said, my understanding is the staff will be bringing this revision as part of the packet.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Okay, now is the time for council member oral reports and comments. Do you have any report, Kevin?
Somebody else wants to.
Yeah? No? Go ahead.
Just go very briefly. I went last night to a very nice Larkspur Chamber of Commerce event at Perry's, where we recognized and honored two people. One is Steve Nickel, who was for 35 years, I didn't realize that long, but was the president of the Larkspur Chamber of Commerce and passed away sadly on September 21st. He ran Red Robin Catering here in Larkspur and was a very valued member of our community. So we acknowledged him last night and sad to see him no longer be part of the community and making the contribution that he's made. The principal reason, though, for the event last night was to honor the 2019 Larkspur Chamber of Commerce Business Citizen of the Year, Jeff Lane. Jeff is the store manager of Molly Stone's in Greenbrae. He's had that role since 1996, leads a team of 105 people, works with more than 350 vendors, helps people throughout our community in a variety of different ways. We recognized him as part of the chamber for his enthusiastic and enduring support of local nonprofit organizations. Through the Greenbrae store, Jeff supports numerous community services, including the Kentfield School District and the Bagging for Bucks program, where public safety officers bag groceries to support the Special Olympics, and a variety of other things. So we were very happy to have him have that recognition last night and going forward for the rest of the year. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Dan? Yeah.
I do have one report. Today at the Sonoma, at the Smart Train Board of Directors meeting, the Board of Directors voted to put an extension of the current quarter-cent sales tax on the ballot for a 30-year extension to fund continued operations, capital projects, extensions to Windsor, Healdsburg, et cetera, Cloverdale, and to start integrating the SMART system into the California rail plan. We just received, regarding the Larkspur extension, the Federal Rail Authority just sent us 2 confirmation letters that we have passed the 99% testing mark. So that full clearance should come very soon, with service commencing before the end of the year. And the head of the Federal Rail Authority will be at the opening to show her respect for the SMART system, which is the only train system in the United States that has passed the positive train control implementation.
When is SMART supposed to start, or when are they planning on?
Sometime before the end of the year.
Yeah, that's what we've heard, but no specific date yet.
Getting that last 1% of testing through, it just, they're going to start having testing during normal service hours now and no longer during night. So what they'll be doing is they'll be letting passengers off in San Rafael, and the train will then continue to the ferry starting next week without passengers. So as soon as they can get that final hurdle, they'll set a date. Everyone's very excited to do it as soon as possible.
Hopefully before the shopping.
I'll push.
All right, thank you. All right, well, we don't have much on our agenda tonight. There are no public hearings. There are no business items. So thank you for spending a short Wednesday evening with us. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion, second? Second. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.